Good morning, it's Susan at Seaside Stitches and welcome to my channel. I am wearing something a bit clown-like. It's not finished, it's a bit raggedy, and I'm going to explain that in a moment. This morning I'm just going to be talking about what I've achieved through lockdown for the full year really. I got back into sewing just soon after lockdown began in the UK. I'm not going into the year we've all had a similar experience, I'm sure, and some a lot worse than others. But what it did for me was it allowed me to have the time to explore things that I wanted to do. And I just thought this is a very quick journey into what I did do. Most of it is represented in my episode 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. And there are details there of how I did it if you're interested. But I was thinking when someone does this is what I did in February and this is what I did in January, and I think, well, what did I do? Well, I've laid it on my table, so now I can see what I did over the year. But it's not just what I've achieved, it's what I've learned. I've learned such an enormous amount. But I'm not actually going to spend that much time going through this and explaining that journey. It's a kind of interim video because I have set one up to go out tonight where I'm making this dress. I'll just reach across. It's a very chatty sew along, much more chatty than sewing along. But I've really enjoyed the process of making this, but it isn't finished, so I wasn't able to finish the actual video. So I've set it up, I've recorded it and I've edited it, and it's set up to go out tonight, but as part 1. But in part 2 it's just about hemming it, and I'm going to insert a little chatty bit that I'd put in where I've started hemming it. And so that's what will follow this little, well, probably longer introduction. But I didn't want to put all that into what's already an hour and a half sew along. So I've really enjoyed it, and if you're interested you'll find out more about that watching the video that's coming out next, or a catch up at some point anyway. But it really is lovely, and it goes with a jacket that I made, which is a shawl cardigan. So my journey initially started with an idea, could I make this? And this is from a Joe Brown catalogue, and I've made it out of scraps. So I started it off after I'd done these little bits, so I'll go into more detail in a minute, and I will show pictures of this along its journey. But it's been sat there now for months and months and months, and it's not a rush at all. But it's got lapels, it's got the interfacing with the other parts of the lapels matches the purple, but they're all out of different scraps of purple, some from a bridesmaid's dress that I got from a charity shop. So I will do a video about that at some point, but it isn't finished because when I put the Vilene, the interfacing on, I used too stiff an interfacing, and I also decided to put it on both layers, the lower layer and the top layer, and it's too stiff to go through my machine, and I've now found some different needles, so I'm going to try it. But I just put it on one side because I wasn't rushing with it. So at some point I will show you that, and I hope to finish it. And what I'm wearing now under it is the dress that I made that started off as something completely different, which I've done a video about, something like the video number 3 or something. But just to go back to the very beginning. The beginning was I looked in my wardrobe and I thought, what could I be doing that gets me back into sewing? And so this was just a charity shop buy. It was a midi skirt, it was really quite ordinary, but it was just something with an elasticated waist to pull on. It went with a couple of my tops, but it was a bit frumpy for me. So I took it apart and I put on this. I'll put a picture on, but it's not really important. I enjoyed doing it. I found out I could do something. I top stitched it with some kind of contrasting thread, and I was really pleased that I'd achieved it. So that's one thing. Now I had put a chair here to put my makes on, but I've now put my lamp on it, so I can't do that. So like many others, they may end up on the floor. This was a monsoon skirt from a charity shop, and it was just knee length and it wasn't really doing anything for me, and so I rah-rahed it up. I put a frill on it, I cut the bottom off, cut 2 layers and made it into a frill, and I'm very happy with that. So these are something and nothing. They weren't me makes really, were they? They were just alterations. We moved here in 2015. I brought this with me. It didn't have a zip in. It wasn't quite finished. I hadn't quite finished the seams. And even though I decided to finish it, it still sat on a hanger there. I even did a video of it. No, I mentioned it in a video that I was going to try and finish it. But it sat on a hanger over there before I hemmed it. Now it's finished. So that I do wear on some of the videos, and I've mentioned it in my first and second one. And this was the toile that I made, that I brought with me in 2015, that I hadn't finished either. It's a really lovely pattern, this. I'll put the details of the patterns in the description in case anyone is interested. But I didn't know, this I made before we moved, quite a couple of years before we moved, so probably 2013. It's probably about 8 years old before it got into being finished. Because it was a toile, I got this material, it was really cheap. It was £1 a metre from Preston Market, and it's not really as bright a purple as I would like, but I knew I could make something from it. So I used it just to practice, and I couldn't quite get this side right, or this side. So when it came, this wasn't finished either. Although I'd liked the idea of it, so I had got far on with this one that's on me, with the blue spotted one. But then, as I decided I would finish that one, I thought, well, I'll finish this one as well. So I just turned the neck in, and I turned the cuffs up with a kind of a double zigzag. Don't know if you'd see that. But all these are things that I'd not done before, and yeah, I enjoyed it. So then after that, what I'd done was I'd made this. I go on about this in episode 3, so you don't need to know really. But this is one I made, I don't know, about 10 years ago. Brought it with me. This is on a video as well. It's on the video where I show that, which I think is episode 6. But none of that is important that you go and look at it. I'm just kind of reviewing what I've done and what I've enjoyed. So I'd made this dress a long while ago. I really liked it. It fits me nicely. And it's empire seams. It's a low-waisted, drop waist, empire seams. And I was making this out of it, which does remind me of a 3-piece suite we had in the 80s, but yes, never mind. Now it's made, I really like it, but it would not go together right. I couldn't get the bodice right, and I got this really flowing skirt with lots of panels. Anyway, I mixed it up by, I just had enough fabric from the bits that I had that was in the bodice, and a little bit more that I made the top from the same pattern as this. The top front, and the back was alright, yeah. So the back was alright, the top front, and then I lifted up the bottom of it and narrowed it until I got it to fit this. I used a different pattern to work out where to cut this. Anyway, so it's a mashup of 4 patterns, but I really like it. So I did that. that was just an example. I also redid the neck on this since I've been here. I'd put the facing, it looks a bit rough, but the facing, I'd sewn it, I'd over sewn it on the front, and it just had a big roll on it and it looked awful. But I like this now and I wear this. And you can see this being worn when I'm doing my sew along for this. Then, but right from the beginning, when I decided I would start videoing, and I don't know why I started videoing, but I'd been watching so many and I thought, I wonder if I could do that. And my mum passed away the year before, and I've got lots of references of my mum and her dementia and us looking after her here, and her buying me my first sewing machine, and how much she sewed when she was younger and into older age, but obviously not right towards the end. But anyway, so I talk about that in episode 1 and 2, and in 1 and 2 I've already sent for the Sinclair pattern for the Harper cardigan, which is a free pattern, and I sent for this fabric. I would have worn it a lot more had it been this colour, because this is what I'd expected from it being called royal blue. But this is what came, and I made it, and I'm very pleased with it. I wear it a lot, and well, I would wear it more if it were royal blue. It's a little bit pasty on me. I like really definite, vibrant colours. But I also managed to hack the pocket, do it a little bit differently, and I'm really pleased with that. So this features in, bits of it feature in several videos, up to number 7 I think. And then that's that. And then I got the book Stretch from Tilly and the Buttons, and I made this Freya top, the Freya sweater, which I really like. I'd never done a rolled neck before. It's a mock roll neck. I'd never done that before. Never set in a neckband. I consider I've never set in a neckband before, so I did that. So I'm pleased with myself for that. It's really nice, vibrant colour. I got that from Abercan. Got that from Higgs and Higgs. Got this from Bobbins and Buttons. Yes, so I like that one so much. It went together really easily. I got this one, did a sew along for this one. I just changed the sleeves and put pockets on again from how I'd done it with that. So that's that. I do hope this is recording, because I don't have to say all this again. And then the other thing is this really snazzy little, it's the waistcoat that's from this same pattern, the McCalls pattern that I used for this shawl cardigan. And I really like it. Went together like a dream. Absolutely, really easy peasy. The only thing I would do next, or again, or even still, you just turn in the sleeve, and I don't think it's quite strong enough a fabric for that, so I'm going to probably bias binding, put bias binding on there. So that's my little lot really. I'm just going to lift up my knees, it's crushing, garment wise. But then in the midst of that, I also made 2 little teddy bears, an all-in-one pattern from Simplicity. Made 2 teddy bears, and then for the children, they loved them so much, I made 2 little puppies from the same pattern. But I have had a sewing block for quite a few weeks, and I couldn't, because Christmas was cancelled, we couldn't go down and take them, and I only had, I bet I had an hour on each thing that I was owing them, that we were going to take down in time. But because our Christmas was cancelled because of the further lockdown then, and travel restrictions and whatever, I never got round to finishing them, and I kept looking at them, and there were 2 organisers for the bed. Don't need to go into that. I'll do another one on non-garment, a video about non-garments that I've made. But I managed to send them off on Monday, so I'm really pleased that I did that. But in the meantime, before that, and while I was waiting for a kind of oomph to finish this, I did some quilting, lots of patchwork and I just enjoyed it so much. It was the patchwork I enjoy rather than the actual quilting. And I just watched so many videos and had such a good time doing it. And I've shown them in my previous video, and just all bright rainbow quilts that I've made for the front room. And they're only little, they're just for the headrests and to brighten up the sofa, which we don't like the colour of, and also to stop the cat plucking. Well, she'll pluck them, but but to stop the plucking, to stop her damaging the initial fabric. Until we've had them back about it, there's an issue with it. But I've really enjoyed that, and then I learnt how to, so I've had to learn how to bind quilts, and I'd also made a door panel for the hall kitchen door, which has a glass, it's got a glass window in it. So anyway, so there's been those as well. There were 6 of those, and this little, I started all that off with one of these. I thought, well, can I make one of those? And it seems I can. So that's too big to be one of the headrest things. So now it's going to become a panel. So that's where I'm up to so far. And it's mid-March. But I'm very aware of the Frugal Frocks challenge. Now, I won't go into it here because I go into it very muddled and very mixed up when in a little video I've done about me hemming this dress. So I'm going to add that to this video in a few minutes, then that will follow me talking now. And yeah, I just hope everyone gets involved in the Frugal Frocks challenge. I will write the actual details in my description because yes, I'm a little bit doddery and my memory's not right, and I was getting the hashtags and the at such a thing wrong. So lovely to speak to you all this morning. I hope you're having a good time doing whatever you're doing, and I hope you're keeping well. So lots of love to you. I will just now add me sitting nattering on while I'm trying to hem a dress that's taking me hours to just put a hem on the bottom of it. So look forward to seeing you again. Bye for now. Susan at Seaside Stitches. If you've enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up, and if you would subscribe, that helps me enormously. Okay, thank you. Bye. I don't think I've videoed much for, no, I don't know, nearly 2 months or something. Yeah, this went on the back burner because I got a bit obsessed with quilting and learning about quilting. So I did these backrest things and learnt lots of different skills and techniques, and yeah, I wasn't sure when I was going to get back to this, and well, kind of shamefully really, I've still got some of the things that, because Christmas got cancelled and our visit to the boys, to the family, got cancelled, some of the things I was making I didn't actually finish. They weren't far off finishing, but if you take a deadline away from me, then I'm afraid that deadline, that time scale can expand to infinity, really. So just got to be careful I don't pluck the rest of the French terry with the pins. So I've been laying it out round me. Yeah, so it's I think the last time that I had videoed any of this is I'd got, the only thing I've done since I last videoed was start to turn up this hem, and have just kind of explained a little bit of how I did it, and I didn't video along with that either. Last week or 2 weeks, sorry, my hair's all, I'm okay with it, it's just tickly. A couple of weeks ago we had some really lovely weather and I thought, oh, I need to, here we go, see, can't talk and sew, flicking things about. Had some really lovely weather and I thought I'd get in the garden because I've just been neglecting that. I've been sewing. And so I went out and I painted the back gate, the side gate, and then I did quite well with that and I thought I'll start on the summer house now. Sounds ever so posh, don't it, have a summer house? And it's not, but anyway. So I started some of the front of that, and then there's a little veranda, and the posts were all really, they'd been neglected. I didn't do it last year and I didn't do it the year before. And so I was intent on doing that, and I was really doing quite well, and I only had 2 bits to cover on one of the posts. And as I leaned round to do that, I lost my footing and I fell on some mud that was there from under a pot that I'd moved so that it wouldn't be in my way. And so I slipped a bit on that. I nudged into the pot. I went down with the pot, rolled about with the pot, and then landed really quite heavily on this side of my arm onto what was left after pruning some really tall grasses. Something like bamboo kind of stalks they were, so they're just really hard, unyielding, ungiving, don't know what the word is. They were like bamboo canes, really, that I fell onto, a clump of them all sticking up, and fortunately I didn't pierce the skin, just grazed through my 2 tops. Fortunately I had 2 tops on, and it was just really quite a shock that I went quite down, and then so my legs were pebble dashed with gravel, but I just escaped really well without injury. Nothing was broken, I had full movement, but over the last couple of weeks the bruising has come out from the contact points with each of the stalks, and just got a couple of little lumps now, but it's been fine. But the bruising has really been very much like a batik, purple to reddish to yellow, flowing round in 3 areas. So it's been an interesting time, but it didn't really stop me doing anything. I could use it as it was so bad I couldn't move my arm, but it was all right really. I think it just threw me. It was just a bit of a shock that, because suddenly you're vulnerable. I was down on the ground and I thought, it's the millisecond, isn't it, where you kind of go, if I have broken anything, or if I can't get up now, because I was side on the ground, and if I can't get up now, I can't make Alan hear me because he's upstairs in the other bedroom, in the office, working on his art stuff. But fortunately I didn't need to bother about that. I got myself up and I was fine. I didn't let go of this because I didn't know if there would be blood, and I wasn't going to let it all gush out until I'd actually dipped my paintbrush that I found among the gravel that I'd thrown about in the other pots, and I dipped my paintbrush quickly in a bit of paint just to do the last bit of the side, just in case I wouldn't be able to do any for quite a while after that. And then I came in and then shouted him, and then we had a little explore of what might have happened to me. So all exciting, but all good now. So yeah, it was a good match for this dress by about Sunday this week. So I need to put these back on, a bit like my welder's goggles. So all I'm doing is just picking up just a couple of threads on the backing of the terry, did have a double thread, but I just split it, but it will be fine. I'll tuck that in, and then I just pick up a little bit where you would normally go in and slip stitch. I do it, instead of having it that way and going into it like that, I do it folded over and then go into up where the fold is, just under the fold. Probably create a mess now. There you go. And then pick up the next couple of threads. And although it took me a long time, I was just kind of dawdling about and watching a bit of Donna from Jordan Fabrics. Oh no, what I did yesterday was Sam from Frugalissima is a Yorkshire lass, and so is Ruan from the Yorkshire Sew Girl. I think that's what it's called. And they have devised between them a challenge for Frugal Frocks. There you go. So it's Frugal Frocks. So the idea is, I'm not part of the YouTube team that's going along. There's one each day. If you search for it, and it's hashtag Frugal Frocks, I think. There's one YouTuber, one sewing YouTuber on every day until the 31st of March, and they're explaining where you can get free patterns. So the Frugal Frocks bit is, you make a frock or a dress, depending on where you live and what you call them, but you make a dress from a free pattern. So each of the sewists that have been on so far in the YouTube challenge, explaining how it works, they've done a bit of research and found some free patterns online. You can do your own free search, you can do your own search, but if you find a free pattern, and the rules are, you use a free pattern and you use something from your stash. Now, I don't have a huge stash. I've only returned to sewing relatively recently. I've got a little bit of a stash. So you kind of match up your pattern to your fabric, and then you make a dress, frock, and to be ready for the 31st of March to show on Instagram, and you have to hashtag Frugal Frocks, but you also have to, I might not be saying this right, you also have to add Frugalissima and hashtag Yorkshire Sew Girl. So that's probably not accurate information, and by the time this video goes out, it may have been over with. It might be Easter or summer, I've no idea. But I thought, if I can finish this dress, because I'm not starting another dress until this dress is finished. If I can finish this dress, then I may have a go at that. So, because you can include patterns that have come free with a magazine. So, because otherwise, my printer's not well anyway, but otherwise, if you send a lot of these free patterns you've found are online, and you can get them as PDFs, but that's your cost of your printing. And if you send it, oh, there is a discount, but Sam has managed to arrange for a 20% discount on AO printing of a free pattern. So there would be some discount, but it would still be some cost. And I'd rather do the Frugal Frock more frugally than that, because I don't want to have to incur any costs, because I've got enough going on. But then on the 31st of March, and the only way they can see them is if you post them on Instagram with the hashtag that I've said, or that you'll need to find out. And the challenge is, someone said, and that's when they'll be judged. I'm not quite keen on if they're going to be judged. I thought it was like a draw, because apparently some of the fabric stores or fabric companies or pattern companies have pledged some prizes. So I just thought that might be for a draw, you know, that they may select so many and you may win a prize. So that's good. But I don't fancy the idea of being judged against each other. That doesn't appeal to me at all. So I have a few things to find out before I decide whether I will do it. And it may not be an option, because if I've not done this and finished a couple of seams on a teddy bear and things for my grandsons and sent them off, I won't be doing anything else until they're done. But I really like this dress. Going back to this dress, I haven't been able to, that was another thing why we just had rain. Once I'd done this, got this far without the hem, it was just rain, and then dull days, shocking days, and I couldn't really take any photos of it to kind of show how happy I was with it, really. And I just want to get this done now, and then I can complete the actual video and put it out there, because it was done as a sew along, a chatty sew along, like this. Like, I don't get much done, but I talk a lot. And yeah, but I'm looking forward to wearing it. I did a couple of practices day before yesterday with a twin needle, because I wasn't intending to hem it by hand, but I'm not sure that I like the finish on a with a sewn edge. I know it's ready to wear, that's what they like, but most dresses that I've ever made, I haven't done a machined hem, and I'm old school. I'm old. So unless I can be sure, and because it's such a circular skirt, it's not actually a full circle, but you could see the volume of the volume of it, really. That I don't want it to go all fluted at the end. I don't mind it being fluted on its own design, but I don't want it to actually just have a funny fluted, that's not quite right hem, because I added an extra 4.5 inches on the bottom to what was on the pattern, but I wouldn't like to have to cut any of this off to do another kind of hem, because I don't want it much shorter than it is. On the pattern it's kind of quite above the knee, and I don't want it above my knee. I don't want it particularly to be one that I wear with tights and boots, and I can't wear it any other way. So if it covers up my elderly knees, I'll be fine. Oh dear. So you do still get that. I don't know if that'll show up, but I can pop pictures in anyway. But it was quite an adventure for me, this dress. It wasn't anything I'd done, never done anything like this before. And I would like to do another one, but I may have to be braver about letting the hem be a sewn up one, a machined one. It's hardly arduous, is it? It's just a bit time consuming. think that was another thing yesterday, because I was quite happy doing this, because earlier in the day my arm had started aching quite a bit, and you don't realise you do anything when it feels alright, and I just had to hold a piece of decking wood up while Alan was fitting it on the top of a fence panel, and it was only seconds that I was holding it. It wasn't heavy wood or anything, but it did start to ache a bit later on. So just to sit here doing this was just quite pleasant, and it's heading towards a resolution of the project. I've really quite enjoyed doing the quilting. I've learnt lots of terms like HST, half square triangle, and hourglass block, and strip tubes. You see, some really good quilting tutorials. It was really quite strange watching the garments sewists yesterday, when I was watching the people, the ones I usually follow on YouTube. It was really quite I don't know what the word is. I'd forgot I'd missed them, because I hadn't been back to their channels as much as normal, because I usually comment and well, I enjoy what they do, but it's the usual thing of either an unboxing or a fabric stash, sharing their fabric stash, sharing their previous month's me makes, and then another one sharing their plans for the next month's me makes, and I enjoy that. But I've just been learning other things this time. Like when you make 6 little mini quilts, you've got to learn how to bind them, and just practice different ways of quilting. Only basic quilting. I think it's interesting watching how people do their tutorials as well, and how different they are, and how some demonstrate on a sample, and some demonstrate by making a full quilt or a full block. Yeah, see, I've learnt things like blocks and quarter square triangles. Setting your blocks on point. A little twist there. See, since I've been chatting, I've only done that much. Anyway, I'm going to leave that there, otherwise I'll never get much done at all.